It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
.06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Tuesday. Okay, I'm going to talk about the fires first again because this is really important. I've got good news, bad news, and, well, it's the good and the bad and the ugly, basically.
Today's show is sponsored by Home Defense Paperweights. They look like rocks, but, well, they're actually rocks.
Yeah, as long as you're not throwing your pet rock at them. Oh, sure, throw that too.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Okay, update on the fires, the good, the bad, and the ugly out there. So what we have right now are several of the big fires. Let's talk about the main fires that have at least been contained. Like the House Draw fire is 88% contained at this time. And there's some up around Gillette that are about half contained. What is very little of it contained is the one that's up there on the Montana-Wyoming border that suddenly sparked up over the weekend and got bigger than the House Draw fire. And there's a lot of little ones out there as well, all over the place. So the good news is yesterday, some rain, as you might have seen, moved through the area. It was a pretty good burst of rain. And it covered the entire area as it moved across. I mean, like a military line just pushing across and went all the way up, heading to the northeast as it did, dropping a lot of rain. That was good. Putting out fires, well, maybe some small ones, but probably not. Although did provide some help to firefighters that were out there and ranchers and other people that are fighting these things. There's good news. Bad news is we're really not going to get more of that until maybe we get into Sunday. We hit a dry spell here. The air is just really going to be dry. The wind is going to pick up a little bit. It's not right now, but it will pick up a little bit today and through the weekend. Still blowing to the northeast and keeping the smoke up that way. So if you're below the burning areas, you're not going to experience a lot of the smoke. Everybody else above it, though, you're going to be deep within the smoke, sorry to say. All right, so as this moves, I'm also happy to say some of the temperatures cool down. We have a bit of a warm spell here 2 days, and then temperature drops again. That's helpful, too. So there's sort of the good of the bad of it. It's good to see that there's some containment going on as well, like with the House Draw fire being 88% contained and the ones around Gillette about half or a little more contained. So, but the one, again, Montana-Wyoming border, not really that much. I mean, they barely have it contained. And the way they fight these things, some people have been asking, why do I see a bunch of firefighters standing around holding shovels? The way they do this makes a lot of sense, but especially in a grass fire. But here's how it works. So they'll fly over with that slurry stuff, which it's sticky. It's colored orange so they know where they dropped it. But it's a really sticky substance that a grass fire is not going to ignite it. And they'll spray that in rows out ahead of the fire. So when the fire gets to that place, it's not going to ignite. They'll also get machines out there, if possible, to cut areas open in the grasslands. So once again, when the fire gets there, there's nothing to burn. Now, line the men up and wait. What's on fire is on fire. It's going to burn. Let it burn out. Every time some ember tries to jump the line, put it out. Don't let it start anything new. Eventually, the fire burns out of its fuel where it is. No new embers were able to spread. Fire's taken care of in that area. Might want to go in and hose down some hot spots, but that's about it. That's primarily how they handle fires like this. So if you see a row of guys standing there with shovels just waiting, they're watching for those embers that are trying to jump their line. That's primarily how this works. It has been all hands on deck between firefighting units we have here in Wyoming and also an airborne, as well as every rancher out there. All right, now, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I've been asked many times, and I haven't had the answer. I wanted to know, what was the damage to livestock out there? I know people have reported seeing, there's antelope and so on they've seen killed, but not as much as you might think. Those animals can run way faster than the fire. They'll get out of there. But for those who deal with cattle, the cattle are not all that smart. And the sheep are not all that really bright either. So there's sheep, there's cattle out there, to name a few things. So where has that been? I do know even horses, that some people have pulled what they could of their herds and their horses and other livestock and brought them to either other ranches, or there's a fairgrounds in Buffalo, wherever they can, to go take these animals. But that's not going to account for everything that's out there. It's Wyoming. We've got a lot out there, right? Finally, I got sent a picture, and thank you for this, DJ. There's some people starting to send in pictures. And as you can imagine, there's charred and bloated cattle, for one, laying out there. And those are the ones that were killed by the fire. Probably got backed into a corner, had nowhere to go. You can imagine what the landscape's like out there. So those animals got killed in the fire, and we don't know the numbers yet. But then there's the problem, as one lady points out, and I'm about to read what she's posted here, that now they have no food because all the food's been burnt up. So what do you do now? So here's what this lady writes. The fire in Wyoming have devastated the ranching community. Was told tonight the Remington Fire North Gillette has burned over 190,000 acres. Dead cows and calves, no fences. No grass for the ones that survived. Donated hay is being coordinated here in South Dakota. If you know of hay or money for fuel, let me know. And she has a phone number. So here are people who are outside of the area. And I do remember there was a time for eastern Wyoming and western South Dakota a few years ago. A big snowstorm had hit in October, and it was bad. And it killed a huge number of cattle. And neighbors, even from far down as Texas, started sending up everything they could, including more cattle, to restart the herds. And so right now, that's what you're seeing is people over in South Dakota sending what help they can. And I know it'll come from other areas, too. But I hadn't really thought about that before. So, okay, what cattle and other livestock did survive, where's their food now? If the grasses have been burnt up, they got to go find that. And they got to find water. But it isn't even just that. I was watching a video this morning. There was one rancher. Her and her husband live in the area where the house draw fire started by a lightning strike. And it quickly got out of control. They did not have the resources to fight that and called in for help. But even then, when help showed up, it had gotten so out of control. And she had pointed out that all of their fencing is down. Of course, you see barbed wire held up by wooden fence posts. All of that wood had burned away. All of the fencing's on the ground. And I wonder how much of the fencing has melted, because I did see some pictures between Buffalo and Gillette. You picture the railing on the highway, the guards on the highway. Some of that has been melted down. I mean, just bent in all sorts of weird shapes. And so imagine what's happened to the fencing out there. So as these animals look for some place to go, as the herds of whatever look for some place to go, that means that ranchers not only don't know where their herd went, I mean, it's huge out there, but is it even a herd anymore? Because they can spread out in all sorts of different areas. So that's the first I've heard as I've had people ask, so what happened to the animals out there? Where are they gone? We're just starting to find out. The numbers of livestock killed were nowhere near knowing that yet, but we'll start to find out at some point. 6:16 is the time. Wake up.
Now, Glenn Woods fits in your pocket with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030, K2 Radio.
6:23 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Interesting story from Cowboy State Daily about a elite firefighting team that's moved in to defend some things like historic Brooks Lake Lodge, stuff like that. These are the guys that you send in when there's things that we want to protect that are really important to our whole community. And sometimes it's even just, hey, there's a ranch hand. It might be a small ranch, small family. They don't have a whole lot, but it's important to them. And there's times that these elites will come in, and their job is to defend those structures. That's what they're trained to do. That's what they mean by elite team. So the story here says one of the nation's elite firefighting teams has moved into the Brooks Lake Lodge scene. It will put in place advanced firefighting strategies that will hopefully safeguard one of Wyoming's most iconic and historic lodges, which is directly in the path of the Fish Creek fire in northwest Wyoming. The fire has burned more than 11,278 acres, Bridger Teton National Forest, and is about 23% containment. Side note on that I didn't mention earlier that if you look at the western side of Wyoming right now, they've got some relief. Up in the Togety Pass area, it snowed yesterday. And actually snowed quite a bit. Now, it was all melted away by the end of the day, but still, you can see pictures from yesterday. Quite a bit of snow came down up in the Togety Pass area. And there's fires up there. Boy, that helped a whole lot. That's not to say there isn't things still burning up there. There is, but you can imagine how much help that is. Also, some snow hit up in the Bighorns, too. So that was a help. All right. The story says these are also the guys that get called whenever an asset is just too precious to lose, which was the case when they were tasked with defending the U.S. Space Force facility from fire. Quote, we're National Structural Protection Specialists. We're one of the 44 teams in the country like this, and we've been together. I know there are members of the team who've been doing it for 25 years. So that means a lot of experience when it comes to fighting fires. The Brooks Lake Lodge will be the team's third scene of the year, the most recent being the Retreat Fire in Natchez, Washington. The presence of this kind of elite management, the story says, that a team like this at a fire doesn't necessarily mean the fire is larger or more dangerous. It's just about the complexities of a fire and the risk to structures like this that we don't want to lose. And so, quote, there are 5 teams like us in northern Montana and northern Idaho. And some other examples of where they use these management teams was Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans and the Space Shuttle recovery in Texas and Hurricane Sandy in New York as well. Okay, so these are who they, and then the story goes on to talk about the strategies and the science they use behind fighting fires like this. And you can imagine with all of the experience these guys have, they've learned a lot about how to save and maintain a structure. And I do remember this a few years ago. I was over in the Keyhole Lake, which is, of course, northeastern Wyoming. And a fire had moved from there and was heading toward the Black Hills and also toward Devil's Tower. And I got a chance to get up in there with firefighters and watch as they fought the fire. I mean, right up in the hills, to watch the kind of strategies that these guys employ up close and personal as they fight these fires. And it is really just fascinating to watch how they work and the strategies that we have over the years, although it's difficult because even when they do make a fire line, they've sprayed the area down with fire retardant. They've cut open areas in the landscape so the fire has nothing to burn, but still embers can jump over everything. But what really blew me away, I would drive through ranch areas and all of the grass in the area and trees and so on had been completely burned out. And yet the housing structures were still there. Not a single house or barn was lost. Now, it's not always possible, But if they have a chance to save structures while they're out there, they'll go ahead and do that. And it was so interesting to me watch or just see areas that were completely black and burned, and yet a perfect square area around somebody's home where there's green grass like they had just mowed the lawn, just around somebody's home. And the home itself was untouched, but everything around it, bushes, grass, trees, completely gone. Showing the priorities that they have when it comes to protecting not just important structures like the one mentioned in the Cowboy State Daily story, but they come across somebody's home, and that's a priority to them to do what they can to save that structure. Because you can get out there and redo the fences, which is a lot of work, I understand. But saving someone's home, saving their barns and other outbuildings with all the machines and everything they have inside there. All right, coming up on 6:30, I have a lot, like yesterday, a lot to talk about besides the fire, but every time I get some new information, I'll go ahead and pass that along. 6:30 means we got local news coming. After local news, update on the weather forecast, and you and I get back into it again. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. The weather forecast, really important, not just to your Labor Day weekend, but to the firefighting. So the extended forecast with Don Day is coming up at 6:45. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
Local and mobile across Wyoming and beyond with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
I'm so happy to be here. Yeah. I'm just happy to be here. Still I know the world's on fire, the situation's dire. A lot of work and courage gonna be required, but I'm just happy to be here.
6:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. I wanted you to hear something real quick. ABC News. This is commentary during the Democrat convention from one of the ABC News commentators right after Kamala Harris had given her acceptance speech.
Harris that sounded a little bit more like Maggie Thatcher or Ronald Reagan, especially on national security, than like Bernie Sanders.
So there's a lot more than he said than just that. But basically, he was trying to convince people that Kamala Harris sounds a lot more like Ronald Reagan. Yeah. Quote, they talk to her, Republicans, Trump Republicans, as they talk about her like a San Francisco liberal, as a radical, which, as you know, she is. ABC's Jonathan Karl said Friday, if you take out this section on abortion rights, much of her speech could have been delivered at a Republican convention right before Trump. Harris delivered her speech, of course, we talked about, last week. Quite a contrast the way, this is again a quote, quite a contrast the way she ran for president the first time when she tried to get the nomination 4 years ago. This is Kamala Harris that sounded a bit more like a Maggie Thatcher or Ronald Reagan, especially on national security. This also, the same commentator who I watched earlier this morning, he was in a debate with a Republican congressman, and the congressman was not letting him have it. Kamala Harris made all sorts of promises and comments that were very socialist, including taking away your right to choose your own health insurance if you want health insurance at all, maybe you want a health care savings account, and making everybody get into a single-payer health care system, whether they like it or not. And this commentator is trying to say, well, she's changed her opinion about that. No, she hasn't. She's never said anything different. She's just not talked about it, but that doesn't mean she's changed her opinion about it. And this guy from ABC keeps coming back, oh, no, she changed her opinion. Where? What did she say? When? Show me. Let's hear the audio. Let's look at the video of this. You're not going to find it, but this is what ABC is putting out. The kind of garbage that they're putting out. To try to convince you that this is a different woman. And she's absolutely not a different woman. It's the same Kamala Harris of 4 years ago. But they have to, this is why I was talking to you, and we'll get more into this even as this week goes on, but as we get closer to the election, who won't even talk about climate change. which was such a big issue for the Democrats for so many years until they found out in this election it's not polling well. Americans really don't look at it as a human-caused climate change as a thing that's happening or a priority that we should deal with at all. Therefore, something that's supposed to be ending humanity within just a few years is not, which is what they've said before, is not even discussed now during their convention. Not even brought up. Not even by climate activists because it's not polling well. Again, if the end was really nigh, you think that they would be talking about this. Although they still have their plans to transition our economy, whether we like it or not, which to me is the big issue more than anything else. This time around, more than any time I've ever seen, the Democrats are really determined, even though they keep talking about freedom, to take away your freedom of choice on all sorts of issues. Kind of car you drive, how you get your medicine, what kind of doctor you have, even if you have a gas stove in your house, but issues much bigger than that as well. And they haven't changed anything. They just tried to sound more moderate during the convention. That is just about the only difference that we saw during this convention, is they tried to sound more moderate. Now you've got ABC commentators trying to convince people, well, she sounded like a Margaret Thatcher or Ronald Reagan, didn't she? No, she really didn't. I listened to her acceptance speech, and it was difficult to do, and I had to take some aspirin after that. And what she sounded like was somebody who was just rambling on, really, about nothing. She actually did not have a whole lot to say. It was an entire acceptance speech of another word salad, and no, despite the best efforts of that ABC commentator, she did not sound like a Margaret Thatcher. She certainly did not sound like a Ronald Reagan. Reagan, who wrote most of his own speeches, by hand, was a very intelligent man and an eloquent speaker. And that's certainly not what we have here. All right, for those people worried about the weather as we get closer, not just through the week, but through the weekend, but also we're dealing with fires right now. We have an extended forecast from Don Day. And again, as the morning and as the week goes on, as I get more information on the fires and what you're dealing with out there, especially in northeastern Wyoming, I'll go ahead and pass that information on to you as soon as I get it.
I am 74 years old. Life expectancy for men is 76 years. Life expectancy for women is 81 years. I figure if I transition...
It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio. Join the show at 888-97-WOODS. .48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the Icebox. Frank Gambino is waiting by. So, okay, you ever had to do something like call to cancel your cable or internet or something like that?
At some juncture, I'm sure I have.
Yeah, okay. So here's one from Infinity, which is it's in Florida. So you can imagine it's going to be a Florida man thing here, okay?
Of course.
And so what you do is you get online and you send them a text back and forth. You don't have to call them. You can just go ahead and text with somebody and they can fix you up, right?
Right, gotcha.
Guy says, the technician, I guess, on there. Happy to be of service. How can I resolve a issue for you today? Mm-hmm. Guy answers, I'm going to prison. Sorry to hear that. Let me go ahead and process your cancellation. I think it was understood the moment he said, I'm going to prison, what's exactly happening here, and that's all we need to know.
I hope not that they don't have cable in prison.
No, I'm sure. Yeah, it's just this guy doesn't have to pay. I hadn't thought about it that way. Essentially what that means is now he gets free cable.
Well, if they have it.
Oh, they have televisions going.
Well,
now, you're going to have to watch whatever the big guy in the jail cell wants to watch, not what you want to watch. But
I don't think they should get any cable in prison.
None whatsoever. But if you think about it, though, I mean, for those people who want to go to prison, you're going to have free housing, okay, and you're protected from all the bad weather. You're going to get a meal every single day. You got free gym membership if you want to go work out.
Yeah, and you make about $1.35 a day making license plates or something.
Sure, you know? Something like that, yeah. So everything is taken care of for you. You just don't want to be in a prison where they have, like, gangs.
Well, that prisoner was very honest. with the cable guys. So, this is my issue here.
Didn't even say, cancel my subscription, please. Just, I'm going to prison. And everything after that was completely understood, right?
Yeah. And then the guy should have wrote back, and when can we renew your subscription?
Yes, right.
And the guy will say, 7 to 10.
Yeah, there you go.
All righty, the Wyoming Cowboy football team getting ready for the season opener against Arizona State in Tempe on Saturday night. The first depth chart for the folks is out at the running back spot. Harrison Whaley will miss the game, and he had he's recovering from arthroscopic knee surgery, and he had a fantastic season last year coming in from Northern Illinois. The number one running back for now is DJ Jones, who played 4 years at North Carolina at the wide receiver spot. Bighorn's Will Pellissier listed as the number 2 guy, and 6'5" junior Evan Swoboda is the number 1 quarterback. Not much experience, but plenty of potential. Out of all the guys who can catch passes, tight end John Michael Gillenborg may be the best of them all, and he may get some serious looks from the NFL people. So the Cowboys are 6.5-point underdogs. That game in Tempe on Saturday starts at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. National Football League teams are making some cuts so they can get down to 53 guys by the end of today. A few former Wyoming Cowboys were let go, but they can certainly sign with other teams. Defensive back Mike Purcell was cut by New England, and he previously played for the Denver Broncos. And also former UW defensive back Azizi Hearns was cut by New England. Receiver Ayir Asante was cut by the New York Giants. The Denver Broncos reportedly will move on from wide receiver Tim Patrick, who will be waived if he's not traded. He has missed the last 2 seasons with knee injuries. The high school football season begins on Friday with week 0, so it's full bore for the 4A teams. The preseason number 1 is defending champion Sheridan. They will host Cheyenne South. Cheyenne East is the second-rated team to start the season. They'll be at home on Friday to meet Laramie. Campbell County, the third-rated team in our Wild Preps poll, is at home to meet Kelly Walsh. And number 4 in Natrona will host number 5 Thunder Basin. Cheyenne Central will be on the road at Rock Springs. In basketball, Laramie's Neil Summers announced on X/Twitter that he has committed to the Wyoming Cowboy program. He's 6'8" and averaged 17 points and 11 rebounds this past season for the Plainsmen, who went 22-4. He had 20 points and 15 rebounds in Laramie's 62-59 loss to Cheyenne Central in the 4A championship game back in March in Casper. That's it in sports.
So how do you see this Saturday going down? What's happening?
I'm guessing Wyoming's going to be very competitive in the game.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to be blown out by any stretch. I think they can hang with these guys. They're one of the Power 4 conference teams. Mm-hmm. You know what? They're not all that great. Okay. They may think they are, but they're not. And, their talent level may actually be better than Wyoming, but I think Wyoming has a lot to prove, and they can start the season now with not only a respectable performance, but maybe even a win.
Okay.
Now that this being said, who knows what the temperature is going to be in Tempe on Saturday night? What? Right. 400 degrees, 300 degrees.
But see, I do know that a lot of times I think people overanalyze the first game, because we've had years where, let's say, their first game, the Cowboys were just horrible, which had nothing to do with the rest of the season.
Right. One game for them is not going to,
but people watch that first game and go, that's it, it's over, we should all pack up and go home.
No, improvement from game 1 to game 2 is huge.
All right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. There's a whole lot to go through. I do have a couple of stories here about massive projects for wind and solar that people are flat out against, and governments in that area just don't care. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Friday.
Six the time. It's a Tuesday, and I still haven't figured out. Okay, hang on, before I get into this, hold on, stop the music. All right. Monday, rinse and repeat is usually what I say. Wednesday, over the hump we go. Thursday, and I can see the weekend from here. Friday, glad you made it. And we have talked about what I should say on Tuesday, because that's the only day. It's been decades of me doing talk radio, and I've never filled in Tuesday. I could say Tuesday. At least it's not Monday.
Today's show is sponsored by Home Defense Paperweights. They look like rocks, but, well, they're actually rocks.
It's okay to throw your pet rock, too. All right. I will get back to, as I get more information on the fires and any kind of damage. We haven't really picked up how much damage was done, structural, but also to livestock, things like that yet, although I'm starting to get some stories about it, but we don't have the numbers yet. As I get that information, I'll go ahead and give it to you. Meantime, we've talked a lot on this program about wind and solar power and all of the problems with it. What about those times when people just don't want it, but they're going to get it anyway? Hang on, I got several stories. But first, ladies and gentlemen, the only hit song that Al Gore thinks he ever had.
You're driving a big car. I come on your radio. I say the end's close. You just say no. I say it's global warming, but you call me a liar. But this planet's on fire.
And as I talked about earlier today, but also the past few days, you notice with the Democrats right now, they're not talking about climate change really much at all. They might mention it in passing, especially during Harris's presidential campaign, but it's really not an issue. And it's really not that big of an issue because when they do polls about this, about 1% of the people out there think it is an important issue. And out of that 1%, a very small percentage actually do anything about it. So it's not an issue. I guess we're not going to die within the next few years or so. Having said that, doesn't matter. We're going to get that wind and solar. They're determined they're going to transition us. And not transition as in your gender. No. They're going to transition as in energy that you use, whether you like it or not. All right, so this is an Idaho senator talking to a lady, one of the bureaucracies with the federal government, about approving a wind farm in an area where the people of Idaho just don't want it.
You're familiar with it? Yep. Okay, that's good. I represent Stone Manning. We're going to talk today about the Lava Ridge project. You're familiar with it? Yep. Okay, that's good. I represent 1.8 million angry people, angry at you personally. And it isn't just the people of Idaho. We've got the legislature voted unanimously, House and Senate, objecting to this project, saying don't do it. We have the 7 Idaho counties that are affected unanimously adopting a resolution of disapproval, saying don't do it. Your own BLM Resource Advisory Council voted unanimously not to do this and said don't do this. The Shoshone-Bannock tribe submitted 2 comment letters in opposition to this project. The Friends of Minidoka Pilgrimage Planning Committee, and Japanese American Citizen League, who operate the sacred ground in there where they have a Japanese internment camp in World War II, said, don't do this. We don't want this. We are angry about this. And I want to put this anger for you into perspective that you will understand. You remember previously your foray with Idaho was engagement in a conspiracy to spike trees in the national forest in Idaho. You recall that after you did that, the people that were charged, that you testified against in return for an immunity agreement, went to prison over it. Idahoans were angry. They were angry with those people. They were angry with you. Now they're seeing the same thing out of you because none of them want the debauchement of this 100,000 acres with these 660-foot towers on it. Do you understand how angry we are about this?
Senator, I can hear the anger in your voice. And I know that change is difficult. This wind proposal is big, but what we did do with your constituents was listen very hard. Proposal now...
No, you didn't.
Proposal now is halved, and yet it will still provide energy for up to 500,000 homes, almost a gigawatt of power.
Where are those homes located? I'll tell you, California. You know that. You think that makes us happy? Why don't you put this project in California? If they need the energy so bad, do it down there. We don't want this project in Idaho. You put out this 832-page environmental impact statement that's nothing but drivel. In this statement, you know what I can't find? Anybody who supports this from Idaho. Can you name somebody or some entity in Idaho that supports this project?
Senator, I have seen a couple hundred comments in support from
compared to how many opposed?
I don't know the vote count.
I'll help you out. It's in the tens of thousands. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants it. Can you name anybody or any entity that wants this?
Senator, the anger that you're talking about is of concern to me on the ground. I'm not going to rise to the rhetoric and name names.
So what are we going to do about this? With all the opposition from Idaho and us getting no benefit out of this whatsoever, what are we going to do about this? You just set that aside and proceed on? Who wants this? Who is it that's pursuing this? Is it you?
Senator, we responded to an application from a company to develop public lands. It's what we do every day.
So it is a company that came forward and you're responding to them and ignoring 1.8 million people plus the entire establishment of our government in the state of Idaho. You're ignoring that for the company that came in and said, oh, here, we want to debauch 100,000 acres and put 241 windmills up on this land. That's how you're going to proceed.
Senator, the final EIS does call for that. The original proposal called for 400 turbines, and we listened to your constituents. We listened.
You didn't hear any constituents say cut the 400 in half. Every constituent said, don't do this. So you didn't listen.
Senator, I hear the frustration and anger in your voice. We have issued the final environmental impact statement. It, of course, is not the final decision. That comes at the record of decision phase.
You know, I warned everyone when your confirmation was up that if you had someone who had such disrespect for the natural resources of America, for our country, and for my state, Idaho, this is what we were going to see. You ought to be ashamed. The administration ought to be
So
ashamed.
you get the idea. And I've even cut that down a bit. That conversation went on quite a bit longer. All right, so let's try this one now. I'm going to go to rural Nevada, because that was Idaho. Going to go to rural Nevada. This is Esmeralda County, I think is how you pronounce it, in Nevada. One of the most sparsely populated regions in the nation. Huge county, much like Wyoming, a huge state, very few people. Huge county, very few people. It's at the center of a debate over a proposed solar energy product. The whole project could become the largest in North America. The second least densely populated area in the country in the U.S., with the land in the third sunniest state, they say. And it might seem like an ideal location for solar energy development, but the whole population out there, no, don't do it. Not here. No. And they list a whole bunch of reasons why. What little water is out there is precious. What few animals are out there because it's a desert area. Well, it's very delicate, you can imagine. Taking up such a massive amount of land to provide electricity for what they say would be millions of homes in the entire state. However, take a look here in the state of Wyoming at one of our coal and natural gas plants. You can think of some, Wheatland, Glen Rock, over in Riverton area. Gillette has some. I mean, picture where we have those plants between natural gas or coal plant. Think about the size of the footprint of that power plant. All right. Now let's take a solar plant that would fill a vast valley. All right. So, and people are saying, why would you need to fill such a huge area? And there's really, we know they're not going to get the amount of energy out of it that they promise. They never do. Story says many residents are concerned that the construction of this solar project would lead to the loss of the, not just beauty of the area, it's an untouched area, but also you got to think of what's going to happen again with what little water, what endangered animals are there. Beyond the environmental concern, there's also apprehensive about the social impacts of this huge project that they want. Construction phase of the project is expected to take 5 years and will require a workforce that could outnumber the entire county's population. Ultimately, though, the decision on whether to proceed, the story says, has nothing to do with local residents because 97% of the land in that county is federally managed. So it doesn't matter what the local people want. We're going to go ahead and build this huge facility. But see, I still go back to, why would you take up so much land to make electricity like this when you could have a much tinier footprint, a very tiny footprint. Like at the moment, I'm thinking over in Glen Rock, Wyoming, there's a power plant there that doesn't have much of a footprint, or Wheatland has a power plant, doesn't have much of a footprint, and yet provides more energy than this facility would. And does it without interruption, okay, is much better for the environment as a whole. Okay? I mean, far better for the environment, really. And is reliable. Need more energy? It can just produce more energy. Yet forget what the people think, right? Just forget. The public opinion means nothing in this case when the federal government has made up its mind about something.
What's your biggest ick in a guy? Probably when they drive like a Tesla or any type of electric car. Why? I don't know. I'm not really like into feminine guys. You know, like they need to be masculine. And it's feminine to drive a Tesla? It's not very manly like when your car doesn't make any noise.
Wake up, Wyoming. Glenn Woods is live on AM 1030 K2 Radio and the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
And research to help you take control of the situation with your family and manage the disease together. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
7:23 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, so what I'm doing here is going through a few projects of wind and solar that people don't want, but mainly for a lot of reasons, but mainly because of the massive footprint that it would take up. We have one here, to name one, in Wyoming that would be east of Burns, Wyoming, or east of Cheyenne. That's going to be a huge solar farm taking up a massive area in the middle of Hale Alley. People don't want it out there, and it'll get wrecked by hail anyway. But, all right, that's also the one south of Cheyenne, over the border in Colorado. Huge solar farm out there. In order to produce a little bit of electricity, you have to have these huge farms. So I played for the audio of the congressman in Idaho talking to a bureaucrat from the federal government because they want to build a massive wind farm in Idaho. And local residents, I thought you guys wanted to take care of the planet. But look at how much land you're going to have to take up in order to build this thing. Then, of course, there's the one in Nevada that I just talked about where it's a huge, massive solar farm they want to put up. Biggest in the country is what it would turn out to be. And right away, it's a huge desert area, and people are looking at this thing. I thought you cared about the environment. What are you taking up so much land for? All right, let's go over to the UK. Story says, low energy density of wind and sun means extremely large collection of devices are needed just to get enough electricity out of them. Enormous wind turbines, large blades, vast areas of solar panels. It is necessary with a lot of capital investment. Very expensive to do this. Concrete, for example, will make this clear. The 1,400 megawatt Sophia offshore wind farm, Dodger Bank, is currently under construction and will cover an area of nearly 600 square kilometers. It would just about fit into Middlesex, an entire town. It is one of many major wind installations that the government is intending to drive through. Very ambitious plan. They want to quadruple offshore capacity. Okay. However, once again, all they really needed to do is just take an area. Let's go to, again, Glen Rock, Wyoming. Let's go up to Gillette where they have a couple of power plants. And let's just take a look at a small footprint for a natural gas or coal power plant, which does much less harm to the environment in many different ways. You don't have to take up so much land, but we can talk about a lot of other things. You get the idea. The Sophia system will one of the largest wind turbines on the market with a generation capacity, they say, of 14 megawatts. These things never reach what they promise. It has 3 blades, each weighing about 65 tons, containing a generator at the top of the tower, about 500 tons. They proudly describe it as a lightweight machine, and that's just one of many that they're going to have to put out there. The overall height of the turbine, this is in metric, 252 meters, only 60 meters short of the tallest building in Britain. And the foundation, according to the company, will be about 80 to 90 metric tons in length. Let me see, about 1,200 to 1,400 tons each. Total weight of each turbine blade, including tower and foundation, is likely nudging toward 3,000 tons for one turbine, one. And they want to put up a whole farm of these offshore. And you wonder why locals are saying, are you kidding me? So one will use about 100 of these structures, this whole facility, about 100 of these structures. So you can estimate the wind farm alone will be about 300,000 tons of industrial equipment, mostly steel, concrete, fiberglass, reinforced epoxy blades, et cetera, et cetera. This is before they've taken into account the offshore cables connecting, everything like that. So how much you have to connect all of that offshore onto what's happening onshore, right? Multiply this by 30 to meet the government's offshore wind turbine, and you get an idea of the millions of tons of industrial equipment necessary. And even then, these wind turbines don't work well, and they're still intermittent. They've never been good for the environment anyway. What they could have done is just in a very small area, just put up one coal power plant or one natural gas plant, which has a tiny little footprint that will outproduce all of those wind farms, and do it reliably. Not intermittent at all. And much more, as much as they tell you, well, the wind farms are more affordable. The energy is so cheap with wind and solar. No, it's not. It's more expensive. It'd be a lot less expensive to go coal or natural gas. But again, do they care about public opinion on this? No, they're just going to push forward. Talk about a waste of natural resources and not caring about the environment. All right, coming up on some local business that we have to take care of, news time. Right after news, update on your weather forecast. You and I get back into it. Now, speaking of weather forecast, Don Day joins me live at 7:45. To talk about not just the weather leading into your long weekend coming up, but also what about the fires? Any good news for them? We did have a little bit yesterday with some rain. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Start your day the right way. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
$7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, 888-97-WOODS the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. All right, one more thing since I'm talking energy right about now. Let's go to California. Gavin Newsom, governor of California, who has absolutely no grasp on reality in any way. Newsom blames oil companies for gas prices. His own energy czar disagrees. And the story says Governor Gavin Newsom issued a video blaming oil companies and greed and price gouging. Sounds like Kamala Harris when it comes to prices at the grocery store, for example. Well, the reason your prices are so high at the grocery store is greed. It has nothing to do with greed. These companies, just the grocery store alone, but also the farmers and the distributors and so on, their profit margins are tiny. And the same comes, you'd be surprised when it comes to gasoline in your car. Well, those rich oil companies, their profit margins on making gasoline is actually a lot smaller than you might think. But reading on. He blames high prices in California for price gouging, which is an average of $4.60 per gallon, which is $1.16 above the national average. Newsom's own energy commissioner, however, disagrees, noting in May testimony that no price gouging has ever been found to increase in the markets of California. Total taxes and fees and rules and regulations add up to approximately $1.62 up to $2 on the cost of every gallon of gasoline. And then you got to take how much does the federal government charge? Well, the federal government is only 18 cents in taxes. So California's rules, regulations, taxes, and fees averages $1.62 or more per gallon, whereas the federal government is only taking 18 cents per gallon. By the way, the profit margin for an oil company on a gallon of gasoline is less than what the federal government makes. So I always get a laugh out of when the feds, if we do have a price surge and oil companies get a bit of a bump in profit, right away there's members of Congress, mostly Democrats, who want to have a meeting about, well, why are you making such record profits? Well, excuse me, Congress, you're still making more than we are, say the oil companies. Okay, so, quote, what's going on with the price of gas, said Newsom on social media. California clean air policies aren't the problem, it's greed. Okay, last May, Vice Chair Sylvia Goudet, I'm probably mispronouncing her name, California Energy Commissioner, appointed by Newsom and Commissioner of Energy Assessment, including energy data, provided testimony to the California State Standing Committee on Energy and Utilities. When asked, is there any clear evidence of price gouging in the market, she said, no, there's not. By increasing supply in the market, we will reduce the spot market voluntarily and hence production to our customers, she said. So, in other words, we're talking supply and demand. So who's going to invest here? Who's going to build a refinery here when we're trying to shut them all down? Which I think is a great point. We need more production. It's supply and demand is another part of it. Not just rules and regulations and taxes in California, but it's supply and demand, and they're not getting much supply. They could use more. Well, they certainly have enough oil in California and off the coast, and they can bring it in from other places. And they could use some more refineries out there. But this is exactly what Gavin Newsom is trying to shut down. And the more he's successful in shutting it down, the higher the prices go. But you don't have to listen to me, because it's the very person that Gavin Newsom selected for the job to oversee energy who is saying that the governor is wrong. So California government, especially the governor, do all they can to shut down energy. And then when people complain that energy is in short supply and prices are too high, don't blame us. It's those greedy energy companies. No, it's not the greedy energy companies. Demand is short, and, well, the availability of the product is short, and the demand is high. Therefore, prices are high. So, Governor, if you'd like to fix that problem, here's what you do. You make sure more energy is being produced, and you get rid of a lot of the rules and regulations and taxes. There you go. In other words, get government out of the way and watch how the situation fixes itself. Quit trying to control the market, and then and here's the other thing that people like Newsom often do. They swear to you that if we go all wind and solar and all electric, if we do this, then you're going to have more available energy and prices are going to be really low. Is that what's happening? Well, no, of course not. Opposite, of course, every time. All right, coming up on Don Day's weather forecast, which I'll make sure not to just ask about your long weekend, which I know you want to know. But for those people going through fires, especially in northeastern Wyoming, we'll talk about what the next few days brings for them. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
The best talk show host in the state, within his price range. Tune in to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, weekdays at 6.
7:45 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Day, Dave Weather. So first thing I wanted to mention, Don, before we get into a longer forecast, I was watching in delight yesterday as a huge, wide, long band of showers went right up into northeast Wyoming where we wanted it.
Yes, and then that continued up into southern Montana into that Remington fire that's crossed the border. So, yeah, all of those fire areas got rained on. The Fish Creek fire near Togety Pass, that got snowed on. So that was great. That's good news. Bad news is the chances of those areas getting rained on again, it's going to be a while.
Yeah. Okay. Now, having said it's going to be a while, I know we got a couple of days here that today's comfortable, but don't we have a little bit of a spike before the temperature drops again?
Just a one-day spike. Temperatures go up tomorrow. The first front of the week is through. We're feeling, a lot of folks probably feel, if you haven't stepped outside yet this morning, you'll feel that it's quite a bit cooler out there than it's been lately. But it will warm up tomorrow, but another front comes in, and for Thursday and Friday, temperatures go down again. Then they kind of go back up a little bit for the weekend. But that's the most excitement we're going to see, Glenn. Temperatures kind of bouncing around a bit. Tomorrow is going to be a windy day, but the wind's back off, and knock on wood, our sneak peek into Labor Day weekend is looking pretty good.
Okay, hold that Labor Day weekend thought for just a minute. On the windy side of that, it looks to me because I like that windy app that gives me a visual on what the wind might do. And it looks like it will continue blowing from the south up to the northerly direction, pushing all of the smoke north of most of Wyoming.
That's how it should be, yes.
Okay. All right. Now, having said that, you teased the weekend, which doesn't look bad so far.
No, looks pretty good right now. I do think a little bit of thunderstorm activity may creep back into the mix by Sunday and Monday, but with these frontal systems coming through, bringing much drier, more stable air in behind them, we're just into that time here. This is why Labor Day weekend tends to be the best 3-day weekend of the summer, and it's usually much better than that first one, Memorial Day, when you're trying to get out of spring into summer. So we'll keep an eye on it, and because I know a lot of folks are making their plans.
All right. Thank you, Don. Appreciate it. And Don will be working on that weather forecast to make sure that you have a nice weekend. That's what he does. He sits there and works on his weather machine to get it all ready for you. Frank, I do think that when we get into a Labor Day weekend, a lot of people talk about the 3-day weekend. Let's come right out and say it. It's a 4-day weekend.
For who?
Well, first off, people start acting like Thursday is Friday. And on Friday, if they show up for work at all, they're not doing much. Most people are out early if they show up at all.
It's kind of like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Yes, and I've noticed when I've driven, you've probably seen this too. Here I am driving to work on the Thursday, if not Friday, before the Labor Day weekend. And I already see campers parked up and down the streets, ready to go.
They're ready, yeah.
Yeah.
And they've made their reservations, and yes. So, it's a huge. You have all people, the campers and RVs, it's almost too many to count.
Yes. So
I like those RV campers.
I have made the mistake once in the past. A lot of my friends were saying, Labor Day weekend, let's go camping. Sure.
Be ready.
I'll never do that again.
You should have thought about that like in April.
Unless we choose a campsite that nobody else goes to.
Oh, there are campsites?
Yes. Yeah, this is Wyoming, Frank.
But you can actually drive to them?
Yes. There are places you can go, and not a lot of other people know about them. And I've been tempted to write about them, but then other people would know about it. But these are also the kind of places where if you're expecting to have facilities that the state left, no. This is primitive camping.
This is raw camping.
Yes, the real thing. But there are places like that where there is nobody else, and they're absolutely beautiful places. You got to know where they are. But I'm not going to talk about it on the air. Okay,
don't reveal your secrets.
But I just decide I'm not going to go camping on Labor Day because everybody else is. So I'm going to go do something else.
All right, what?
I haven't decided.
You're going to go camping in your own yard, aren't you?
If I can get an airplane, I'll go flying. So what are you doing?
Working.
Okay.
We're
stop that.
Labor Day weekend is busy. Got to stay ahead of the game.
Well, there's a lot of sports on Labor Day weekend.
So absolutely. Yeah. All this is football, volleyball, cross country.
And let's come right out and say it, Frank. What you and I do for a living, we'll act like it's work so people don't think that we're really goofing off.
Yes, we are working. It's not really.
Have you ever had a real job?
Let's see.
They kind of suck, Frank.
I actually, for maybe like a month and a half, helped deliver carpet.
Okay.
So or low carpet under the truck.
And did that suck?
Totally.
Okay. There's people who do that every single day of their life.
Well, not me.
No.
I have a job that I like.
You will go and watch a sporting event and sit there with your feet up, drinking a beer, taking pictures and interviewing people. Then you come back and you complain that you were working.
Well, there's no beer involved. Not then, at least. Well, the Wyoming Cowboy football team getting ready for the season opener against Arizona State in Tempe on Saturday night. First depth chart is out for the Pokes. And on offense, our running back Harrison Whaley will miss the game and maybe a few more following arthroscopic knee surgery. The number one running back listed is DJ Jones, who played 4 years in North Carolina. At the wide receiver spot, Bighorns' Will Pellissier is listed as the number 2 guy, and 6'5" junior Evan Swoboda is the number 1 quarterback. Not much experience, but plenty of potential. Out of all the guys who can catch passes, tight end John Michael Gillenborg may be the best of them all, and he's going to get some serious looks from NFL people. So the Pokes are 6.5-point underdogs in this game, and that will start at 8:30 p.m. on Saturday night in Tempe. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. National Football League teams making cuts. They got to get down to 53 guys by the end of the day. A few former Wyoming Cowboys were let go, but they can certainly sign with other teams. Defensive lineman Mike Purcell was cut by New England. He used to play with the Broncos, and former UW defensive back Azizi Hearns also cut by New England. Receiver Ayir Asante was cut by the New York Giants. The Denver Broncos reportedly will move on from wide receiver Tim Patrick, who will be waived if he is not traded. He's missed the last 2 seasons due to injuries. High school football season begins on Friday with week 0, so it is full bore for the 4A teams. The preseason number 1 is defending champion Sheridan. They're going to host Cheyenne South. Cheyenne's East is the second-rated team to start the season. They'll be at home on Friday to meet Laramie. Campbell County, the third-rated team in our Wild Preps poll, is at home on Friday night to meet Kelly Walsh. And number 4, Natrona, will host number 5, Thunder Basin. It'll be a 7 o'clock game. And then Cheyenne Central will be on the road at Rock Springs. And in basketball, Laramie's Neil Summers announced on X/Twitter that he's committed to the Wyoming Cowboy program. He's 6'8", he averaged 17 points and 11 rebounds this past season for the Plainsmen. He had 20 points and 15 rebounds in Laramie's 62-59 loss to Cheyenne Central in the 4A championship game. He was a 2-time All-State pick in 4A with his senior season to go. And that's it.
I notice you do the same thing I do. Whenever I say, hey, they posted this on X, Twitter.
Yeah. Well, I refer to it as both.
Yes.
And even if you were to dial up Twitter, it just jumps over to X.
So I
don't know why.
I don't know why
they would do that. Then again,
kept it.
90% of Twitter, I think, is garbage.
So you exit out. All right. I did come across something for you, Frank. Just something to think about.
Okay.
You heard early bird gets the worm?
Yes.
Okay. This meme says, a worm is a pretty disappointing prize for getting up early, if you ask me.
I don't know. It's breakfast, lunch, and dinner for those birds.
For some people. Yeah, it's all right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. I got plenty to cover next hour, but it's also open phones. So 888-97 Woods, that's 888-97 WOODS. It's Wake Up Wyoming. The time, it's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. We'll get to open phones in just a moment. Hang in there.
Today's show is sponsored by Earwax Colored Hearing Aids. The perfect camouflage for hearing better.
Wasn't that yesterday's? Hang on, let me try the next one.
Today's show is sponsored by Velcro shoelaces.
No, wasn't that one either.
Like shoelaces.
I've completely lost track of where it was the home self-defense system using rocks. I'll find it for you.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave, all right, strap in, and let's do this thing.
888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about, change the subject. It's all fine by me. I'm going to go back real quick to fill in what I was talking about earlier this morning when it comes to the fires, especially in northeastern Wyoming. Real quick over to western Wyoming. We did have Togety Pass shut down for a while. That area got snow yesterday, and in some spots, a pretty good amount, right on where the fire was. Now, all that snow has since melted away, of course, but the fact that it got really cold and snowed and a good amount right on the fire, they're in good shape right now. Not all of it's out, but most of it is. They're in really good shape right now. All right. Some other little spotted fires around Wyoming, but it's mostly northeast Wyoming. So from KC up to Buffalo, around Sheridan, also Gillette, a lot of fires up in those areas. And I was looking this morning. In fact, I did write up a story in this, but let me see while I'm talking to you about it, if anything has been updated in our area. Some of the big ones, of course, you've heard of the Horse Draw fire. So 174,702 acres burned. Good news, 88% contained. It wasn't long ago that I was saying to you, and nothing has been contained. Let's see, just to the east of that is the Schoonover incident, 88% contained. That's a much smaller fire. If we head up to Gillette, so just west of Gillette, Flat Rock fire, 52,599 acres, 49% contained, and north of that is the Constitution fire, and I don't see any containment on that yet. Now, they did have, if we head over to that fire that was right on the Wyoming border with Montana, that was a small fire, but then suddenly over the weekend just ballooned out of control. 196,387 acres, 5% contained. They got a lot of work to do here. Good news is, yes, and this helped a lot. A huge band of rain showers moved through the area, which helped them a lot. I am only just now getting little bits and pieces of information because people have been asking, so what's happened with the animals in the area, livestock, but also wild animals. Wild animals are pretty good at getting away, most of them. A lot of horses and cattle and sheep have been brought out of the area, but there's still a lot that have not. Fences, forget about it. Fence lines are gone for a huge area, just gone. So there's animals all over the place. And what didn't die in the fire is running low on food because most of the food burned. That's where we are now, but I don't have any numbers for you on that. I'll get them as soon as I can. Tom is in Casper. Morning, Tom.
Good morning, Glenn. How you been?
Good, sir. What you got?
Oh, I was just kind of curious. I didn't vote this year.
Okay.
Should have, but anyway, I missed it. No big deal there. But somebody was calling somebody the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
And actually, I'd like to know this. I'm a white man, you know, so I want to know how you call somebody the bottom of the barrel, how it is racism. I don't see any racism in there, Glenn.
I'm not really familiar with what you're talking about as to who called who at the bottom of the barrel.
Okay. Last week, I guess it was somebody, Steve Helen or something like that, was running against Harriet Hageman.
Right.
And Harriet called Miss Harris the bottom of the barrel.
Right.
And this Steve guy came in, and he was on your show, and he said that calling her the bottom of the barrel is racist.
Well, I would say.
Well, I don't see no color in there.
I don't see that. I don't see that it would be racist either. But when people are running for office, they'll try to say anything to do damage to their opponent. But the good news, if you're thinking about it in that sense, is Harriet Hageman didn't just win the primary. She completely stomped over anybody who might have been in opposition as if they didn't even exist. So she's fine.
Oh, that's great. I didn't even know that, Glenn. But you know, I love the whole world, and our country the most. And I'll tell you what, these people that use racism to advance their agenda is probably the lowest of the low a man can go.
Right.
And you know, and I appreciate you letting me say what I say, because when it comes to that politics, unfortunately, the Democrats are not going to give it up ever again.
Right.
We are in for a heck of a ride.
All right.
So,
okay.
All right.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
Talking to you too, man.
All right. Thank you. And I don't think that the Democrats, I know the Democrats don't ever want to let it go, but no, they don't have as much control as you might think. Let me answer a question here. This is off the app. Okay, so, and I got kind of caught in my capital letters over there. So it was, let's see, Smalls in Casper. What is the name of the cigar lounge? That's Casper Cigar Company. That's the one on CY Avenue, which is a very good place to go to. I think you'll thoroughly enjoy that. Okay, there's that. These are people who are texting me off the Wake Up Wyoming app, and so I answer them back, which you can do, by the way. Download the app for free at your app store. When I'm on the air, hit the chat option, and you can send me text messages anytime you want. Back to the question that I just got. It is very typical, as you know, during any political campaign that candidates say whatever about each other, whether it's true or not. They're just trying to do as much damage as possible. And you know, in most cases, it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. There's a whole lot of name-calling going on, which isn't worth listening to. So for me, when it comes to who am I going to select as a candidate, I look for the person who's actually being honest, who is not trying to twist words, or when I hear that candidates, for example, if they're very liberal, they'll moderate themselves so they don't sound so liberal like Kamala Harris is doing right now. That's a type of a lie. You know, when they try to twist the opponent's words, you know, or just misrepresent, that's another type of a lie. And as you know, I only have one question when it comes to selecting a candidate. And I've asked them on the air, many candidates on the air. You can stay out of the rest of the politics. Just ask this one question. If we give you this job, what is it you want to accomplish? What do you want to get done? If they give you a whole laundry list of things they want to accomplish, that's going to take a lot of money and take away your ability to make decisions for yourself. Don't vote for them. If they recognize that government doesn't know what it's doing and we need to get government out of the way so you can go make your own decisions, that's the person that you're looking for. So as you know, to the caller that I just had, to get upset over what candidates are saying about each other, that's actually the kind of stuff that I ignore. It's not worth – that's just a bunch of schoolyard playground name-calling, which amounts to just nothing. It's stupid, and I don't get involved in it. You want to get down to the meat of the issue, there's one question. What do you want to do to solve our problems? If you understand that government is the problem and we should be left to solve our own, for better or worse, okay. But if you think that government should be in control of people and property and society, then you don't understand that is the problem. And that's what we need to get away from.
The North American Karen, a wild beast that's dangerous alone but deadly in numbers. When gathered together, they form what is known as a homeowners association. This HOA peruses the gated community on the hunt for a vulnerable manager. But today, their vulnerability will be exposed. A Tyrannus homeboy sapien. The Karens freeze and huddle together in fear. Their phones on video mode, at the ready to call for help from their closest friend of the jungle, the security officesaurus. But the harmless Tyrannus goes about his business, paying little attention to the Karens. But it's too late. The Karens have already been frightened. They turn and make their escape. Rarely do the Karens find themselves on the receiving end of fear. But today, they are reminded that the world is not their home. They trot home to their husbandus flaccidus to complain that their neighborhood is going to hell.
News and weather together at the top and bottom of every hour. This is Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
8:21's the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, so it's open phones. You can change the subject. That's fine. Radio mayhem, if you will. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97 WOODS. Ladies and gentlemen, judge has made a ruling on some of these THC and other such shops in Wyoming and some new Wyoming laws regarding that. But before we get into that, there's always got to be like a good intro song or something like that to a new topic, right? Yeah, I found the perfect one.
I got a thing for marijuana, surrounds me like a sauna. When I get with you, I wanna tell the world how much I love ya.
I am a cannabis man, got a joint in each of my hands. Mexican or Panama red, this true love will never end. Oh, how I love you. Marijuana, marijuana. Oh, how I love.
All right, so let's go to Cowboy State Daily. Judge tosses lawsuit to halt Wyoming's new THC laws. Wyoming settlers are trying to appeal to this. This has become big business in the state of Wyoming. So after a judge, the story says, dismissed their lawsuit challenging the new laws restricting THC products in Wyoming, several hemp sellers have appealed it to a higher court. The civil case Green Room versus Hill was filed August 19th, 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, which handles appeals for the Wyoming Federal District Court. This could go, frankly, all the way to the Wyoming Supreme Court, but we'll see. Green Room LLC and 9 other hemp businesses, plus one individual seller, asked a federal judge in July to declare Wyoming's new law against synthetic cannabis light variants unlawful and to block it. So Wyoming recently passed Senate File 32, which is now the Enroll Act 24 is what it's called, and became enforceable July 1st. It expands the definition of, oh my God, if I can pronounce all of this, tetrahydrocannabinol or something like that. Boy, how many letters? Hang on. This is a word that has this many letters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 19. This has 20 letters in its name. And I'm just a little bit dyslexic, so there's no way in hell THC is what we call it. That's why we call it THC, because there's no way that anybody's going to be able to pronounce all of that. And 20 letters, please. All right, so to include some psychoactive synthetic variants and prohibit Delta H THC if it exceeds 0.3% of its product. So Wyoming hemp industry called the law confusing and claimed it conflicted with the 2018 federal farm bill, which permitted marketing of THC products with less than that. Delta 9 THC, which is not mentioned, and Delta 8 THC. So, U.S. District Court judge dismissed the hemp sellers' lawsuit August 15th, saying they failed to show the federal law preempts Wyoming's narrower law and failed to show that the state is taking from them by restricting its own drug laws, and failed to show that the new law was vague in any way. Also, the state law doesn't violate the U.S. Constitution Commerce Clause, says the judge, and reserves the right for federal government authority to regulate interstate commerce. And a lot of this stuff does come from out of state, so not all of it does. There's stuff that's produced in Wyoming, but most of it comes from out of state. So the dismissal by the judge harkens to multiple times to his earlier July 19th order denying the hemp business request for a preliminary injunction. So back and forth, this goes into court. Let me see. Wyoming lawmakers considered the effect of some substance as having on its citizens, saying it was harmful. But they can go ahead and appeal. Okay, so we'll see what happens. I know when I've talked to owners of some of these stores that have hemp products in the state of Wyoming, on the one hand, there's some of what they're doing which I can say, I know, I understand. You're looking for natural solutions to problems. And some of the products that they have, little gummies and stuff like that, if somebody has problems with glaucoma or something like that, they can show some benefits to it. But on the other hand, in some of these stores I walk into, I look around at what they're selling. And it's not just the THC products. but it's also other things they have under glass to sell, then I'm thinking, no, you guys are trying to get into the marijuana business, but you're trying not to say that you are. For example, take a look at the glass pipes they have and other such products, and you see that they push the limits of what they can sell to try to get around the law as best they can to be a legitimate business. So that's where we're at right now. Wyoming's one of those states that's resisting the idea of legalizing marijuana. Now, while I'm talking about that, since I said it in those terms, let me see. I'm going to go ahead and ask the question here. How many states have legalized marijuana? And the answer that I get is, okay, so far 24 states have legalized for recreational use cannabis of some kind or another. And then there's also the District of Columbia added to this. My theory all along has been, it's just a theory I have, whether you like it or not is not the issue. The theory I have is at some point the federal government will just get out of trying to enforce marijuana law because there's going to be too many states that have legalized it, and there's no way your federal government can enforce it. They won't be, let's just take Colorado, for example. The federal law says marijuana is illegal, but the state law says, but it's legal. So what has your federal government done about it? Well, they don't have the resources to fight Colorado in this. So they just leave Colorado alone to do what they want to do. And at some point, there's going to be holdouts, but if we keep going this way, and that's the if we keep going this way, more and more states legalize it over time, and then eventually the federal government just says, okay, never mind, forget it, it's legal. I'm just saying this is the path that we're heading down at this point. And Wyoming could be one of those holdout states. It'll be a while, but it could happen. Or, come to think of it, it could happen overnight. It could surprise you. All right, coming up on some local business that we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that national local update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it. Nice long segment of open phones coming up next. 888-97-WOODS is the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Where you can talk about what I'm talking about or change the subject. This is fine with me. I'll roll with it. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Friday. When you need to know quicker than the morning paper or the 5 o'clock news, you need Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Mornings on K2 Radio.
Wake Up Wyoming. All right, 888-97-WOODS, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Or text me a message over the Wake Up Wyoming app. Just hit the chat option when you open up the app, which is free to download the whole app at your app store with a lot of neat options. So Simple Man sends me this text. Since I was just talking about THC and marijuana. On the marijuana issue, he says there are two things I'm thinking why the government doesn't step in right away. Number one is that they're ready to, and let me go ahead and expand his message here real quick so I can get to the whole thing. Hang on, there we go. Number one is that they're ready to and don't think they can get any more money out of anybody. They will say marijuana is federally illegal, so they're going to confiscate everything and your own business. They don't know. Okay. And from drug, this is a long message here. Okay, you cannot legally possess. Okay, so you're going to move this into, they can take your house, your car, your medical card. You can't legally own firearms. In other words, it's a felony. They can take your guns from you. I don't think it gets that complicated. I really don't. I think the idea that marijuana stays illegal, it was made illegal a long time ago because there was a lot of pushback against it as a drug that at first it was not illegal at all. People can go ahead and grow it and use it, and nobody knew anything about it and nobody cared. But as more and more people started to use it, a movie came out many years ago. I think it was back in the 30s. I'd have to look up the exact time, called Reefer Madness, which made everybody think it's a psychedelic thing that's going to ruin everybody and so on. And you can make an argument for that.
But you can also say the same thing against alcohol. And remember, we tried prohibition against alcohol. And you see how that turned out. In my mind, the prohibition against marijuana is no better or worse than the prohibition against alcohol, in the sense that it's not working. It's created an underground business, organized crime. But there's nothing anybody can do to stop it. Marijuana might be legal in states like Wyoming, but if anyone wants to buy it any time, they can. It's available. Every now and then you hear about a big drug bust, but there's really nothing they can do to stop the flow or stop anybody from using it. In fact, from time to time, I read stories about people who are using marijuana in prisons. And they went to prison for marijuana use, and they're using marijuana in prison. So there's absolutely no way to stop all of this. I think the government keeps it illegal because of public pressure on it. So I understand I had to read Simple Man's whole message there. I don't think it's all of what you're saying as far as they use it as a way to get control of people's property, their guns, and their bank accounts and all that. I really just think it's a lot of social pressure that keeps marijuana illegal. But as with making alcohol illegal back in the prohibition days of alcohol, government doesn't know how to stop this. They can't stop the underground economy. It's just simply not working. They don't have a solution for it. I think the way you get rid of stuff like this, instead, let's take cigarette smoking. There was a time that pretty much everybody smoked cigarettes. It was hard to find someone who didn't. What really, and there's been discussion about making cigarettes illegal, but that's not going to happen. What really has changed more than anything else, it's not regulations, it's not high taxes that have brought down the number of smokers out there. Instead, what has changed is just our public perception of smoking as being something that's not healthy. That's it. That's really what did it more than anything else. Public education brought down the number of people who actually take up smoking in the first place. And the same has gone for drugs. When you take a look at Nancy Reagan's Just Say No to Drug campaign, people made fun of her. But while she was educating young people on how bad drugs of all sorts, really hard drugs can be for you, it turns out that drug usage among young people went way down. It's the education that seems to solve the problem more than anything else. If you think you're ever going to reach a point where nobody ever does it, that's a pipe dream. There's always going to be people who do it. But you can reduce the number of people through education. When it comes to prohibition, however, that's nearly impossible to do. And I say that as evidence. Let's take a look at how good the government has been against enforcing prohibition against any kind of drug. Name it. If you want to buy meth today, you can go find it. It's out there. So I think the way we fight things like this has to change. The current method of making it illegal and jailing people over it has not done any good. So if you want to fight drug use of any kind of drug, and even alcoholism, then education seems to be the key, and you're never going to reach 100%. It's never going to work that way. Try all you want, you'll never reach 100%. Should we try to make sure that people abuse their bodies less with all sorts of substances, whatever those substances should be? Absolutely. And I think it does start with education at a very early age. And that's the answer to that. Again, prohibition does nothing. And I'm just looking at the evidence when I say that. I'm just so you know, I've never done any kind of drugs. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I'm just not a substance abuser. Okay, I never have been. I've just stayed away from it my whole life. But that's me. For those people who do, however, well, okay. Again, it has a lot to do with how they were raised and what kind of education system went into it. I think that's really your answer more than anything else. All right, moving on to something else real quick. We talk a lot about schools and education, and as you know, I'm a big proponent of school choice when it comes to vouchers and allowing parents to pick the school that they want their kid to go to. Private school, I don't care if it's homeschooling, whatever you want, charter schools, whatever you want to do. And throwing money at the problem doesn't improve education. Here's the latest. Headline, lowest spending Virginia. Virginia spends just about the lowest of any state on education.
Yet their districts surpass top spenders on many subjects. Recent data on school district spending in Virginia public projects appear to support the conclusion that, and this is by the Reason Foundation, as they took a look at the K through 12 education, they found that it doesn't matter that you spend more on education. That doesn't mean you're going to get a better result. The foundation concluded that increasing spending does not always correlate with higher test scores. Reading, math, science. Virginia spends very little compared to other states, and yet they're getting better results. Based on recent data from standards and learning pass rates in the past few school years, subjects from the 5 lowest spending school districts outperform students from the 5 highest spending school districts, showing once again that throwing money at the problem is not your solution. And I point to the state of Wyoming because every time Wyoming talks about reducing funds for public schools, and I mean by that, cut back on the bureaucracy, and we don't need expensive school buildings. And yet we can have better schools in Wyoming, especially if we go to charter schools and private schools and so on with the school voucher program. So we're talking about a difference between, let's say, Virginia spending about $16,000 per student and other schools spending about $20,000 per student. And yet, just because they spend $20,000 a year per student doesn't mean they got better results in the classroom. Something I've been talking about for a very long time. It has nothing to do with how much money you throw at it. Just because they have nice school buildings and nice-looking classrooms and computers and all of this, we give every kid a tablet computer and so on, has nothing to do with the quality of education that they're getting from their teachers. Not a thing. 8:45, the time. Wake up, Wyoming.
Like a strong cup of coffee in the morning. Tasteless, but it'll get you through the day. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
8:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the icebox to talk to Frank Gambino. So, Frank, I'm going to take you to Clearwater, Florida for this next one.
I know where that's at. It's over by Tampa Bay.
Oh, yeah, beautiful area. Yeah. And they have a Clearwater Threshers baseball team out there. Well, now, of course, you know about a bat dog. When I say bat dog, I don't mean Batman's dog.
No, the dog goes and grabs the bat like a bat boy would, yes.
Well,
I think it's in Boise, Idaho, too. I think the dog up there. Yeah.
So in this Clearwater little minor league team, their bat dog got old and retired. They had a big ceremony to retire the dog.
Okay, that's cool.
Now, the dog's kid, kids today, is trained now to go out and retrieve the bat.
The nut doesn't fall very far from the tree.
That's right. Well, they let the dog out for its first official retrieving during the game.
Okay.
So, this dog, who I think they named, Clearwater, I think they named it, Lily is the name of the dog.
Lily the dog.
Lily goes running out and runs around the bases backwards.
Okay, third.
Yes.
The second.
Couple of times, really fast. Stops behind the pitcher in that nice green area and decides what a beautiful spot just to drop a load.
Oh, well, there you go.
More
just marking the territory,
Yes. So this is not exactly on the schedule of events, but who's going to stop the dog?
No, nobody,
At this point, And everybody knows that this is the dog's debut. I don't think the dog knows.
Oh, well, it does now.
So finally, and I wonder who goes out there to pick that up.
The groundskeeping people.
Are they on while the game's on? Are they?
Well, if that happened, they'd probably be out there right away.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so the dog is going to be in the doghouse here for a while for doing that.
Yeah, so the team decided to say, look, it was her first day on the job. We love the dog to death. The dog's not in any trouble. Just do it. So after the incident there, the second baseman walks over to Lily and points to the bat. And Lily goes, oh, yeah. And so after running around a little bit more, finally goes and gets the bat and runs back to the dugout with it.
Okay.
So eventually got the task done. But as her first day on the job, I think she was a little overexcited, maybe?
Just a bit. Well, National Football League teams making cuts yesterday and today. They got to get down to 53 guys on the roster by the end of the day. A few former Wyoming Cowboys were let go yesterday, and certainly they can sign with other teams at some juncture. Defensive lineman Mike Purcell, who previously played with the Denver Broncos, was cut by New England, and New England also cut former UW defensive back Azizi Hearns. Receiver Ayir Sante was cut by the New York Giants. The Denver Broncos reportedly will move on from wide receiver Tim Patrick, who will be waived if he's not traded. He has missed the last 2 seasons due to injuries. Wyoming Cowboy football team getting ready for the season opener against Arizona State in Tempe on Saturday night. The first depth chart is out for the Pokes. And on offense, the running back spot, running back Harrison Whaley will miss the game and maybe a few more following arthroscopic knee surgery. So the number 1 running back right now is DJ Jones, who played 4 years in North Carolina. At the wide receiver spot, Bighorns Will Pellissier listed as the number 2 guy at one of those receiver positions, and 6'5" junior Evan Swoboda is the number 1 quarterback. Not much experience, but plenty of potential. Out of all the guys who can catch passes, tight end John Michael Gillenborg may be the best of them all, and he'll be asked to do a lot this year and is going to get some serious looks from NFL people. So the Pokes are 6.5-point underdogs in the game, and they will start in Tempe on Saturday night at 8:30 p.m. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. High school football season begins on Friday with week 0 games, so it is full bore for the 4A teams. They count. Preseason number 1 is defending champion Sheridan. They will host Cheyenne South. Cheyenne East is rated number 2 to start the season. They'll be at home on Friday to meet Laramie. Campbell County, the 3rd rated team in our WyoPreps poll, is at home to meet Kelly Walsh, and 4th rated Natrona will take on number 5 Thunder Basin, as well as Cheyenne Central will be on the road in Sweetwater County to take on Rock Springs. And in basketball, Laramie's Neil Summers announced on X/Twitter that he is committed to the Wyoming Cowboy program. He's 6'8", he averaged 17 points and 11 rebounds this past season for the Plainsmen, and he had 20 points and 15 rebounds in Laramie's 62-59 loss to Cheyenne Central in the 4A championship game. Summers is a 2-time 4A All-State selection. And that's it in sports.
Have you seen the news board where they've taken some people who are wrestlers, you know, and they put them in a small automobile and have them wrestle?
No.
Yeah, it's actually just a lot of...
Is this very safe?
I don't know. It's on YouTube. I wonder if they got it from... you probably didn't see it, but there's the Deadpool Wolverine movie.
Yeah.
And they decide to get into a fight while inside a small car. And the fight goes like all day. And it's hysterical, absolutely hysterical. And I wonder, is that where they got this from? Because, they're taking people who are on like high school and especially college wrestling, even Olympic wrestling levels. Let's get the 2 of them in a small car. Let's just pretend they had some dispute and now go at it. Now, I wonder, how do you pin somebody?
Well, I don't know. So this is like real wrestlers as opposed to like WWE wrestlers.
Yeah, real wrestlers, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how I would love to see some WWE wrestlers in there.
Maybe they just tap out after a while.
I guess so, yeah. But, I mean, okay. It goes from the front seat to the back seat. They're all over each other, you know. So, all right, whatever amuses people, Frank.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. And then the last hour of the program, open phones all the way. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Right.
.06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Tuesday. Here's where maybe she can help me on this. Jamie Lovell from Meals on Wheels is here. Monday, I say Monday, so rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
On Wednesday, I say over the hump we go.
Right.
On Thursday, I say I can see the weekend from here. Right. On Friday, I say congratulations, you made it. I have nothing for Tuesday.
Nothing for Tuesday.
You have to work on that one. Think about it.
Yeah, maybe it's Tearful Tuesday.
Tearful Tuesday. At least it's not Monday.
At least it's not Monday, but you're not.
Hang in there. Tomorrow's hump day. Right. Something like that. I'll work on that one. So Jamie Lovell's with me from Meals on Wheels in the Natrona County area. Now, you've heard me talk to Rihanna Brand, who's Meals on Wheels down in Laramie County, which is a huge facility down there that serves, I even lost count of how many people. How many do you serve here?
About 600 a day, I would say, give or take. Wednesdays are a big day for us. I don't know why, but we have most people on Wednesdays.
All right, so for those who don't know, what is Meals on Wheels?
We are a senior nutrition program that provides in-home meal delivery to clients who are homebound, can't get to the senior center, maybe, had a stroke, can't cook, can't drive,
right.
Hearing and visually impaired, so that we provide meals. And we do Midwest, Edgerton, Casper Mills, Evansville, the whole of Natrona County.
Okay, so a whole lot of volunteers helping out.
420.
Yeah. And you did get something passed in this past primary that's helping you out.
Mill levy.
Mill levy, which was close.
It was very close.
Yeah.
It was very, very close.
Okay, so for those who want to know where that mill levy money is going, it goes to where?
It goes to senior services such as the Senior Center, Meals on Wheels, in-home services for folks who we want to keep them in their home as long as possible.
Okay. So what do you need?
So we need drivers.
Okay.
We need drivers really bad. I don't know. Like it's either feast or famine, and it seems like, a lot of our volunteer drivers are older themselves. So, they get worn out too, and some of our drivers become our meal recipients. So right now I have approximately, I have routes open on Wednesday, Monday, and Friday. And Friday is a big day because we deliver over 1,700 meals on Friday.
So to get them through the weekend, I would assume.
For Saturdays and Sundays. And right now I have 4 routes open on Fridays.
Okay. What does somebody need in order to be a driver? What's the qualifications? Besides a driver's license.
A driver's license. That's about it.
Yeah. Vehicle, of course.
Yeah, vehicle.
Reimbursement for the gas?
No.
Okay.
We always say it's the power of one. It's 1 hour a day, 1 day a week. Well, we used to say 1 gallon of gas, but it depends on the routes now. But
now, when they show up and deliver the food, I've seen this done in some way. I've seen some people just show, hey, here's your food. Great to see you again. Mm-hmm. Other people, they'll make it more personal.
Oh, absolutely. They'll bring the paper in or take out the trash or, see if they need help with anything else. And then, they also let us know if someone's not home and, say Betty's always home and now Betty's not home and she didn't answer her door.
Yeah.
So there are eyes and ears out there in the community for our seniors that are in their homes. So our volunteers are very important to us.
Okay. So what do they need to do to be a driver? Where do they go?
Just come into the building. It's a small application. It's just name, address, things like that. Mm-hmm. And we can get you started on a route. We usually send you along with someone just to kind of train.
Yeah.
So we'll know what to do. We have a handbook that we give you that tells you all the ins and outs of what to do and when to do that.
Yeah. And it's just helping people who can't necessarily get out themselves.
Yeah.
So when it comes to and I've got to ask about this again because it's always fascinated me, the meal preparation begins about what time every day?
Our gals get there at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they produce how many meals?
Right now we're close to 650 a day.
Wow. How much does that cost?
Our average meal cost, if you include everything, the building and the utilities and the staff and all that fun insurance and stuff like that, we're about $13 a meal.
Okay.
Give or take.
I do, again, this is what I've seen in other Meals on Wheels places. Mm-hmm. Some of it is food that you have to buy, but in some other places I've noticed a lot of donations come in.
Yeah, we do get donations that come in. We get Fair Meat, which is a big saver on our budget. We spend about $40,000 to $50,000 a month on just raw food.
Wow.
And, our meals have to meet the dietary guidelines, so it's kind of like school lunch.
Yeah.
Eating healthy isn't cheap, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do people go to find out more about Meals on Wheels?
You can go to mealswheels.com, and there's a volunteer form on there. You can send that in. It will come directly to me. You can call our building anytime between the hours of 8 and 4. We're there. And then, just stop in if you want to. Come by the building, and we'll get you set up for a route.
Now, for those people who might need your help, what do they do?
Again, just call the office or get online. Again, there's a volunteer form, and there's also a form to fill out if you need meals, if you need some help right now.
Okay.
Which, with the cost of everything.
Yeah.
And you can't get out much. It's hard.
Well, and that's pretty easy to do no matter where you might be listening, because I know this is for Natrona County we're talking about. Mm-hmm. No matter where you might be, there's usually a Meals on Wheels program.
Yeah.
So mealsonwheels.com, type in where you are.
Right.
And see what comes up.
Right. And you can call us in Cheyenne because we have a list of mostly we're the only 2 Meals on Wheels that are separated in the state. The rest of home delivered meals come through the senior centers. So contact your local senior center in your area and they'll be able to help you too.
Have you been working with, I gave her a big compliment last time she was on this program, the governor's wife has worked with a lot of organizations providing meals all around Wyoming to get them coordinated.
Yes, absolutely. We worked with Mrs. Gordon and her team to provide meals. They help us, too, provide meals for the holidays because we deliver every Christmas and Thanksgiving. Yeah. And so they help us do that.
What about those people that are way out there, which happens a lot in Wyoming?
Yeah, it does. Well, if we can, we'll send a volunteer driver out there. If not, we do have folks that come in and have a caregiver or a family member. We'll pick up meals at our facility for a week. They're frozen and take them out there.
Okay.
But
all right. So once again, how do people get a hold of you? For anything. Drivers is what you need.
Anything. You can get a hold of us at the mealswheels.com, or you can call our office at 265-8659. Or again, just come on by. We love to have you stop by and visit us and see how it all works.
Okay. Drivers needed. Thanks for coming in.
Thank
Wake
you.
Up Wyoming.
Take Glenn anywhere with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
9:19 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, 888-97 Woods the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject. Fine, I'll just kind of roll with it. So let's go back to some national politics now. And this is where a governor is ripping Kamala Harris after he's just decided to tell everybody what is the cost of illegal immigration on just one state. So we're going to go to Mississippi, where they're spending $100 million on illegal immigration, according to a new report. And I think that's annual. Let's take a look at this. With the governor blaming it on intentional failures by the Biden-Harris administration to secure the border. Now, again, I know that the news media wants to tell you that, no, Harris was never appointed czar of yet. And I wonder if I still have that. Let me see real quick if I can look this up, because I had a whole list of different news organizations calling her the border czar. And yet they're trying to deny that they ever called her the border czar. No, I think I might not have saved that one. I'll go back again a little bit later to see if I did, but I don't think I did. But yeah, it shows a whole bunch of news organizations that after Biden had put her in charge of the border, news organizations started calling her the border czar until they were told basically to stop it by the Democrat Party, and then they denied that she was ever border czar. How can you call her that? That's ridiculous. She was never appointed czar, even though they said she was. All right, so state of Mississippi, about $100 million annually. The report by the Mississippi State Auditor found there's at least 22,000 illegal immigrants in the state. Just one state, Mississippi. And that's their conservative estimate. They don't know the true number. Analysis estimated it costs taxpayers about $100 million annually, with more than $25 million to educate illegal immigrants in public schools alone. Meanwhile, taxpayers spent about $77 million to provide health care for illegals and their children, another $1.7 million to increase illegal immigrant criminal fund. And let's see, Mississippi Republican governor told Fox News the states are being forced to step up because the Biden-Harris administration intentionally are failing on the border, says the governor of Mississippi. Quote, their dangerous immigration policies are endangering Americans and putting enormous financial strain on states all across the country, and it's long past time to put a stop to it. He says it's clear Kamala Harris isn't up to fixing the administration's self-inflicted problems at the border. And he said she's been a disaster as a border czar. Even the governor there is calling her a border czar. And is actually making the situation worse. Securing our border starts with electing Donald Trump in November. Now, of course, I know that's a Republican talking, but, quote, Mississippi's illegal immigration problem is spiraling out of control. And you can tell it's a Republican governor because he says illegal immigration. A Democrat would never do that. Problem is spiraling out of control, he says, and is costing taxpayers millions, according to the state auditor. Our public schools, our hospitals, our prisons continue to lose massive sums of money that we could have spent on our own citizens. And the problem is nowhere near being solved. So says the state auditor of Mississippi. The number is only an estimate, like I said, because specific data is not always available. Like, for example, how many, they say about 22,000 illegals in Mississippi, but they don't really know that number. They're going by how many people they're taking care of. The report noted that the Mississippi Department of Education is barred from collecting citizenship information. Why? I got to read that again. They noted the Mississippi Department of Education is barred from collecting citizenship information. I'd like to know why. I think they should. Instead, it uses data from the University of Mississippi to project approximately 2,500 illegal immigrants attending public schools. It also accounted for extra spending in English language, low-income students, supplements, things like that. For health care, the report noted that approximately 50% of illegal immigrants have no health coverage, 38% use emergency medical services at taxpayer expense. It also notes the cost of births of illegal immigration and also the cost of Medicaid to children born of illegal immigrants who are now officially citizens of the United States because they were born here. The report says that due to the limited amount of reliable data, spending is probably much higher than that. The story says the report comes at a time when border security and ongoing crisis at the southern border is a top priority for voters, but not a major issue for Democrats or the Democrat media. And remember, they didn't even want to admit that this was a problem for the longest time. We've even heard from the Biden administration, oh, the border is secure. Hell, it is. And when not only did the president go down to the border, but even when the news media tried to cover it, your legacy press, they really didn't cover how bad the problem is. But they wouldn't want to, right? Story says Republicans have blamed a 3-year border crisis on Biden administration policies, claiming the administration rolled back Trump-era policies and encouraged illegal immigrants to flood the country as a result. So the Biden administration says it needs more funding and reform, which is garbage. They have all the money they need, and the laws are already in place. That's something else that Biden was trying to push where, well, I tried to get this bill through Congress, but the Republicans held it up. He doesn't need any more power. He's got everything he needs. All of the money, all of the manpower, all of the laws already in place. Biden is that bipartisan Senate bill. He says the Republicans failed to provide it. It also pointed to a recent sharp drop in encounters and releases. So since it was a dip in numbers recently, Biden is saying, see, fixing the problem. Look at that dip it ebbs and flows. Some months are busier than other months. It has nothing to do with what Biden is doing. Or for that matter, nothing to do with what Harris has ever done. And she was put in charge of the border, and she hasn't done anything. Quote, as president, this is Harris talking, I guess, here. As president, I will bring back the bipartisan border security bill that he killed, and I will sign it into law. I know we can live up to our proud heritage as a nation of immigrants and reform our broken immigration system. We can create an earned pathway. By the way, there's also a story that I have here of how Democrats are trying to get some kind of a bill passed that would just basically legalize illegal immigration. All those who are in the country illegally, just go ahead. The headline says, DNC platform rolls out plan to legalize illegal aliens. This is from the story, Democrat Party's 2024 platform endorses a bill that would create a pathway for illegal immigrants to become lawful prospective immigrants, would be issued IDs, social security numbers, be able to vote, join the military. Now, I think that is a major slap in the face to all of those who have spent years trying to do it the proper way. These people just come in illegally, and we're just going to give them everything that other folks have tried years to do the proper way. I-80 John in Granite Canyon. Morning, Glenn. This is why we need to close the border. Once they get here, they get all of these perks on our dime. Yeah. The U.S. Citizenship Act, this is from the Democrats, would empower the Homeland Security to adjust the status of lawful prospective immigrants, or illegal immigrants, they say, to that of lawful permanent resident should an immigrant remain in the country for 5 years without absence no longer than 108 days. The bill would also allow deported illegals to return to the United States. So anyone we picked up and deported, they can just come back. This is what the Democrats are saying they want to do. Quote, the legal immigration framework was last updated in 1990, does not reflect the needs of our country in the 21st century. So this is what the Democrats plan should Kamala become president. Me and Cheyenne says, I would like to hear your opinion on how much the Secret Service was charged by Trump for staying at his resort. From what I hear, it was $1,185 a night, totaling $2 million. Do you know if that... Okay. I have some interesting information, not just on that with Trump, but with even the Clintons and other presidents. I don't know what Trump has done. I don't have any information on it specifically. But hang on, me and Cheyenne. When I get through the break here, I'll talk about what I do know, which is not a whole lot, but what I do know from other presidents from years past. Hang in there. We're coming up on some local news, update on your weather forecast, and you and I get back into it. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
Friday. Download the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Listen anywhere and chat live with Glenn during the show on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So good topic brought up by me and Cheyenne. And when I say me and Cheyenne, when you're using the Wake Up Wyoming app, you can go ahead and hit the chat option and send me a text message. And some people use their real names. Other people make up a handle. Like with the old-fashioned CB handle, it's fine. Whatever you want to be called. But I just like to know where you're from, mainly. And then send me notes, and I'll answer both on and off the air. So here's the question. I'd like to hear your opinion on how much the Secret Service was charged by Trump for staying at his resort. From what I hear is about $1,185 a night, totaling about $2 million. Do I know if that's true and so on? And also some questions about... taxpayer funded? Is that a conflict of interest since he owns a resort? Well, okay. I don't have any information on that. I haven't heard about that, so I can't answer it. But it wouldn't surprise me, and I say that this way. Let's go back. We can go back farther than this, but let's go back to the Clintons. Now, you got to be careful if you try to look this up. Let's say you Google it. You're going to get a lot of these fact checkers out there, which they're not fact checkers. They're very politicized. And we go back to the Clintons. They bought a nice home in New York after Bill was done being president. That way Hillary could go ahead and run for Senate, right? And they are going to get Secret Service protection. All former presidents do, for life, get Secret Service protection. And we can go ahead and debate whether they should or not, but they do. They get Secret Service protection for life. So when the Clintons were going to give them, if they're going to stay on site and protect the Clintons at home, there's sort of a guest house out back, and they let the Secret Service take that over. And then they charge the Secret Service rent on the guest house. And the dispute is, well, wasn't the Secret Service basically paying the mortgage on the house? Now, you'll see some fact checkers that say, no, they weren't. Yes, they were. Now, were they paying the whole mortgage or part of it and so on? I don't have those numbers. But, yes, they were essentially paying the mortgage on the Clintons' house, which was a very expensive house. Now, that wouldn't be the only one. There's another story I came across. Biden also profited off the Secret Service. He did the same thing at one of his houses where, again, when he goes home, Secret Service come with him, and they need a place to stay. And they need to stay on site. Now, these people own big homes. So the Secret Service can stay here. There have been some cases in the past where a place was built for the Secret Service. Depends on the president that you're talking about. But in this case, Joe Biden then charged the Secret Service rent, which, of course, pays for a bunch of the bills. Now, I wouldn't say that they're making any of these presidents made a profit off of this, but it certainly is paying the bills. How much they can get away with charging, I don't know. Are there rules on this? How much can they charge for the Secret Service to pay rent to stay there? That's something I don't have information on, but I would love to see. Can we put a cap on that if we do it at all? And then Small's next question was, Mia's next question was, so is that basically taxpayer funded? Yes. Taxpayers are paying that bill. Absolutely. Now, Smalls in Casper says, I've heard the amount of rent the Clintons charge. The Secret Service covered one of the Clintons' house payments. Not sure how true that is. Well, now again, as I was looking this up during the news and information break, I came across several, I'll put air quotes up there, fact checkers that were saying that's not true. Well, they're wrong. It is true. Now, how much of the mortgage was paid, I don't know, but they were charging a considerable amount for rent for the Secret Service. Okay, so did it cover all of the mortgage, part of it, more than it? I don't have the exact numbers, but yes, they were basically paying a good chunk, if not all of the mortgage, through the Secret Service. So that is a fact. Now, has Trump been doing that? Well, I wouldn't doubt if other presidents have done it before him, he may have done it too. This would be, for example, if Trump is staying at Mar-a-Lago, for example. Mar-a-Lago is a resort. It's not just Trump's house. It's a resort. If you have the money, you can stay there. All right. So if he's going to give up room to the Secret Service, well, is he going to charge them for that? Now, again, I don't have the answer to that. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. Other presidents did before him. So I don't know the answer to that. If anybody's trying to make some controversy over it, you can always turn and say, well, if you're going to get mad at Trump for doing that, let's say Trump did do it, or he is doing it right now, charging them. If you're going to get mad at Trump, then you're going to have to get mad at Biden and Obama and the Clintons, okay? Just so you know, if you're going to get angry and wag the finger at Trump, you're going to have to wag the finger at all those Democrat presidents before him who did the exact same thing, just to be fair about it. Then we can get into the discussion as to whether they should be allowed to or not, which is a whole another discussion. And I've thought about it and have often been really annoyed by the whole idea. I mean, they're getting free Secret Service protection, and yet they're going to go ahead and charge rent. Yeah, I've often looked at that and thought, I don't know. I mean, if I were in charge of the whole thing, I would say, if you want your Secret Service protection, you're not going to charge us rent. If you're going to charge the Secret Service rent, then you're not going to get your protection. But, of course, you know that's not the way things work if you're talking about your federal government. It never works that way, does it? Yeah, all right. Let's Wake Up, Wyoming.
I am 74 years old. Life expectancy for men is 76 years. Life expectancy for women is 81 years. I figure if I transition...
Got something to say? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat with Glenn on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app from K2 Radio.
9:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the Icebox where Frank Gambino is waiting by. Frank, did you read comic books as a kid?
Not comic books. I read the comics in the newspaper.
Okay. Because one of the things I really enjoyed was in the comic books, they always had to have their ads. You know, it didn't just make money off of the sale of the comic, which wasn't much, but they sold advertising in there. And what kind of advertising would you put in for a comic book from like the 1970s or 60s or 50s even?
Cigarettes?
When your audience is kids.
Cigarettes.
Of course, yeah. And yeah, sure. Make homemade beer, stuff like that.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
So I'm taking a look at this stuff, and I remember this. Okay. Let me see. There is the skinhead wig. You can make yourself look bald.
Okay.
See? There's actually stores now retail stores that sell stuff like this. There was a store that I remember that specialized in stuff like this. Some of it was an absolute ripoff. Some of it was actually pretty cool. I did have one of these once, though I didn't get it inside the comic, but it looks like a book, and you open it up, and it's actually got a combination lock for a safe. Because the book is a safe.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what is the combination?
It doesn't matter. You'll figure it out because it's a piece of crap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Let me see here. The joy buzzer when you shake someone's hand?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, this was a really big ripoff. You're supposed to get x-ray glasses, and they always show a pretty lady, and you're looking at her with your x-ray glasses, right? But all you got was a pair of plastic shades, and written on the outside said x-ray.
Yeah.
So people thought
that you could see through them.
Now, would you trust...
Glenn.
Yes.
Those things at the time cost a dime.
Yes. But no, some of these are a whole $1.
Whoa.
$1.25. And then you had to mail order it.
Oh, well.
Yeah, okay. Now, this one I like. It says, fear no man. Okay. Would you trust your kung fu and karate lessons to a book that you get for $1.25?
Not really.
Yeah, okay. But it says right here, fear no man.
Oh.
Now, this I would get. This is back in the days before they put sugar in our cereal. Remember, you had to get your cereal and put sugar on yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
Then they put it on for you.
Yes.
Too much.
Yes. So this is a gag sugar bowl, and it's not really sugar. When they would put it on, it would start to foam. I would have bought that.
I would buy that today. Wyoming Cowboy football team getting ready for the season opener. They'll take on the Sun Devils at Arizona State and Tempe on Saturday night. The first depth chart for the Pokes is out on offense. Running back Harrison Whaley out for this game and maybe a few more following arthroscopic knee surgery. So the number one running back right now is DJ Jones, who played 4 years at North Carolina. At the wide receiver spot, Bighorns, Will Pellissier listed as the number 2 guy at one of those positions. And 6'5" junior Evan Swoboda, the number 1 quarterback. Not much experience, but plenty of potential. Out of all the guys who can catch passes, tight end John Michael Gillenborg may be the best of them all. And he's going to get some serious looks from NFL people. Folks are 6.5-point underdogs in the game that will start in Tempe on Saturday night at 8:30 p.m. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. National Football League teams making cuts today. They got to get down to 53 guys for their roster by the end of the day. A few former Cowboys were let go yesterday and certainly can sign with other teams at some juncture. Defensive lineman Mike Purcell was cut by the New England Patriots. He had previously played for the Denver Broncos. And the Patriots also cut former UW defensive back Azizi Hearns. Receiver Ayer Asante was cut by the New York Giants. Denver Broncos reportedly will move on from wide receiver Tim Patrick, who will be waived if he's not traded. He has missed the last 2 seasons due to knee injuries. High school football begins on Friday, so it's week 0 and is full bore for the 4A teams. The preseason number 1 is defending champion Sheridan. They'll host Cheyenne South. Cheyenne East, rated 2nd to start the season, will be at home on Friday to meet Laramie. Campbell County, the 3rd-rated team in our Wild Preps poll, at home to meet Kelly Walsh. The number 4 team is Natrona. They will host number 5 Thunder Basin in Casper, and Cheyenne Central will be on the road at Rock Springs. And in basketball, Laramie's Neil Summers announced on X/Twitter that he has committed to the Wyoming Cowboy program. He's 6'8", averaged 17 points and 11 rebounds this past season for the Plainsmen, had 20 points and 15 rebounds in Laramie's 62-59 loss to Cheyenne Central in the 4A championship game, and is a 2-time 4A All-State selection. That's it in sports.
So a couple of other things. Now, for those people just joining us, this is stuff that used to be in the comic books back when I was a kid. Yeah. Now, I would buy this. I would. Onion gum. You want to stick a gum, Frank?
No.
Here's some gum. Yeah.
It's like, you ever heard like ABC gum?
Yes, already been chewed.
Yeah.
Now, this one I always thought was fascinating. It's supposed to look like a pen, but it's a secret spy scope.
Ooh.
Now, when you look through the pen, which is supposed to be like a monocular instead of binocular, how much magnification do you think you're going to get out of that if it's a pen?
Well, less than 1x?
Yeah, okay. See, there's a phony cast. Oh, this is good. Authentic.
A phony cast?
Yes, on your arm, yeah. Authentic Superman costume. Basically the costume you would wear for Halloween for your
But
kid.
it had hidden kryptonite somewhere.
Or something like that, yeah. Yeah. So, okay. See, this is some stuff which I never ordered any of this stuff. I just loved reading the ads. You can still order this stuff to this day, Frank. They still sell it.
That fake cast thing gets you out of gym class every single time, right?
Every single time, yeah. All right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business and news time. It's Wake Up Wyoming.